On the evening of February 26, 2023, Sameh Aqtash, a 36-year-old Palestinian, was shot dead during a settler attack on Za'tara village, south of Huwarah in the West Bank. B'Tselem's investigation of the killing, in collaboration with the audio research organization Earshot, has confirmed the following. First, the Israeli settlers who attacked Za'tara were accompanied by the security guards of an Israeli settlement, by officers of the Israeli police or of the border police, and by Israeli soldiers. There is also evidence that Israeli police patrol cars passed through the area. Second, we've confirmed that 31 live shots were fired towards the villagers, which led to the killing of Sameh Aqtash. Earshot has concluded that Aqtash was most likely shot from near the village gate by a small caliber gun. This correlates with eyewitness reports that settlers were at this location and that they were seen firing handguns. We came to Za'tara after the attack to gather testimonies from Palestinian villagers who witnessed the killing of Aqtash. We also received continuous CCTV footage for 2 hours from 7 until 9 in the evening, as well as phone footage taken by 3 Palestinians from Za'tara at different times during the settler attack and shooting. We photo-matched screenshots of the footage in a photogrammetry 3D model of the site to pinpoint the exact locations of the CCTV footage and the phone cameras at different times of the attack. These photo matches were necessary to analyze the live shots, both spatially and sonically. All the available footage was taken from within the village's fence and gate towards the dirt road connecting the village to Route 60, the main West Bank north-south artery. At different times between 7:30 and 8:40, small and big groups of settlers are seen on CCTV approaching the dirt road leading to Za'tara. Palestinians gather near the village's entrance and throw stones at the settlers as a response. The settlers came from 2 directions: Za'tara checkpoint south of the village, where a demonstration had been mobilized in response to the killing of 2 settlers in Huwarah earlier in the day, and from Huwarah town, where Israeli settlers had set fire to hundreds of cars and properties belonging to Palestinians on the same evening. At 8:40 p.m, and for almost 5 minutes, about 100 settlers appear going up the road from the direction of Huwarah towards Za'tara. At this point, about 50 villagers are seen standing behind the fence. Between 8:41 and 8:42 p.m, stones are thrown by both Palestinians and Israeli settlers, and tens of settlers appear getting closer to the village's gate. Sounds from the phone footage reflect the intensification of the event. A few seconds later, shooting begins, and villagers are seen on CCTV laying on the ground at the time of the shooting. Between 8:42 and 8:44, 31 shots are identified sonically through the phone footage. During the shooting period, we identified 6 vehicles that accompanied the settlers, including 2 white pickup trucks, one of them a police vehicle, apparently being used by border police, and the other typically used by settlement security guards. 3 vehicles belonging to the Israeli military, arriving at different times throughout the event, and a 6th vehicle unidentifiable because of the light's glare. Throughout the whole event, recognizable Israeli police vehicles passed by the group of settlers at least 3 times without any intervention. We also identified at least 7 soldiers moving near the military vehicles along Route 60 just before shooting started. According to testimonies, settlers mostly gathered close to the village's gate on the dirt road during the time of the shooting. Witnesses identified several settlers firing handguns. While there's no available footage recording Aqtash at the time he was shot, according to testimonies, he was near the gate when he was targeted. After the 26th shot at 8:44:00 p.m, Aqtash appears injured on the ground in footage filmed by phone camera 3 with no indication of his location. In another video taken by phone camera 2 at the same time, a flashlight appears among a group of people that syncs with the light dropping on Aqtash's body in phone camera 3. To determine Aqtash's location, we photo-matched phone camera 2 footage on the 3D model and confirmed that the footage of injured Aqtash was taken near the gate, matching testimonies of villagers about Aqtash's location at the time of shooting. 20 seconds later, as shooting continued, a group of villagers appear on CCTV carrying injured Aqtash inside the village from the direction of the gate. Further sound analysis was done by Earshot investigating the shots that killed Aqtash. Out of the 31 gunshots fired that night, 15 were captured by camera 1. 8 gunshots were visible by the flash of the muzzle of the gun. These flashes guided the process of echolocating the remaining shots. All the gunshots captured by this camera had 2 distinct echoes. By measuring the time between these echoes and the distance from the shooter to the camera, the 2 surfaces that reflected the sound could be determined. A pattern emerged. The further along the dirt road, the closer to the camera, the shorter the interval between the gunshots and their echoes. To narrow down which of these shots could have hit Aqtash, Earshot enhanced and analyzed the speech of the crowd in the background of this recording. A man shouting for an ambulance just milliseconds after the 26th shot was identified. This was the first indication that Aqtash had been wounded. These 7 shots were all fired in the 23 seconds before the call for ambulance. The shooter who fired the last 2 shots before the call for ambulance fired from this position here. It is unlikely that these shots killed Aqtash, as a crane obstructed the line of sight, so the line of fire, to the victim. The preceding volley of 3 shots were fired from this position here. This shooter was much closer to Aqtash's position and had a direct view of the victim. This position is where witnesses claimed the settlers were gathered. These 3 gunshots that were fired from this position sounded different from all other shots fired that night. Gunfire is typically made of 2 sounds: the supersonic shockwave made by the bullet flying through the air, followed by the blast coming out of the muzzle of the gun. The interval between these 2 sounds can be used to assess the speed of the bullet and therefore the caliber of the weapon fired. With small caliber arms, such as pistols, the shockwave travels only a little faster than the speed of sound, leaving very little time between the supersonic crack and the muzzle blast relative to larger caliber weapons. When simulating the bullet speed fired from a 9mm pistol at Aqtash, the interval between supersonic crack and muzzle blast corresponded to what was registered by the camera. This 2-millisecond interval means that, unlike all the other shots fired at the villagers that night, these shots could not have been fired from a 5.56 caliber assault rifle, the standard issue weapon of the Israeli army. These 3 shots were also quieter, despite being fired from much closer to the camera than the other shots fired that night. As 9mm rounds are less powerful, they are generally observed as quieter than 5.56 caliber rounds. The shots also had different harmonics, further suggesting the use of another kind of weapon than what is being fired by the Israeli army. The remaining 2 shots can be heard 23 seconds before the call for the ambulance. For these shots, the muzzle flash is visible. This made it possible to use the sound of these shots to calculate the trajectory of the bullets that were fired. Unless this bullet ricocheted off another object, the trajectory analysis shows that this shot is unlikely to have been responsible for killing Aqtash. This video shows that Aqtash was most likely shot from the location near the village gate by a small caliber gun not typically carried by the Israeli military. Eyewitnesses confirmed that only settlers were at this location and that they were seen firing handguns. Based on these points, we find it highly likely that Aqtash was killed by a settler who fired in full view of the Israeli forces.